Something tells me there's a subsection of Roberts that's buried in there that will tell you how to deal with that. But I'll bring back some information so that if this question has additional deliberation at a subsequent meeting, I can be prepared to give you some more information.
Also, I'd be interested in the rules of the U.S. House of Representatives.
It's a good idea.
And I'll kick it around some and see. We base these on a model that I believe is provided. It's either by AWC or MRSC. I'll look in there and see if maybe we may be missing the fact that this was right out of their model. You know, but I think it was something that he did because mostly it's reflective of Robert's rules. You know, so it'd be surprising that it was in the model. Is it okay to move on?
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, the administration just wants to bring this forward. We can always take a vote on whether or not to have abstention. So, I mean, that's, that could be up to us to make that final choice. So.
The last piece in this section is on motions to reconsider. It's just stating what's in the in Robert's rules that somebody in the majority needed to, the principal question needs to bring that up. So you've already dealt with that before. The next section deals with public hearings, which you have on occasion. I'm going to add some language for you at the beginning of this in front of all of the subsections that says unless statute or your own code prescribes some other specific hearing procedure because it's a land use decision or an annexation thing or some other types of things where it really tells you what to do. This is primarily dealing with the conduct and order of the hearing and some of the mechanics of the hearing. It can't obviously conflict with anything in statute or your own code, so I'll just put that little preamble there. Everything looks pretty good in it. I will point out in 6.2 it's relevant to the conversation that we were just having a little bit, and that is that if the item in front of you is a public hearing and you have a conflict of interest or have been disqualified because of appearance of fairness, you excuse yourself from the chambers and you don't participate in that decision or vote. However, you could step down in order to participate in a hearing if you have direct interest. So what this is saying is basically your election to the council has not preempted you from participating in the public square. You can, even when you have a personal interest, you can't vote, but you still have a voice. So it's an interesting dynamic, but you could, and you would have to use your judgment as a counselor, but your rule states, and this could be just reflective of something in the Constitution or in the statute, I didn't do that research, but your rule is saying that if you're in business doing something and you have a matter that's before the council, you can address the council, but not as a council member, if you would, even though you are a council member, if that makes sense.
Question on 6.2 and 6.1 both. On 6.2, do you care if I don't ask that particular question at the start of every public hearing? Because I certainly haven't. This pretty much says I will.
It says that you will, and
I'm fine either way, it doesn't matter to me.
when it's conflict of interest and appearance of fairness generally are not applicable to broad legislative items where you're making an
quasi-judicial.
You're making an enactment about how we treat signs in the community, for example. But if it's QJ, quasi-judicial, where a specific zone change on a specific property or a variance hearing on a denial out of the hearings example, that's very clear. And so that's why I had the suggestion to defer to our code or to statute on the conduct of public hearings, because in those cases it's pretty specific about what's happening, and you need to ask that question. But I don't know that you need to ask it. You're considering an ordinance to have meetings, consent meetings on the 2nd and the 4th, and you're having them.
change the wording a bit, and instead of saying, the chair will ask if any council member, blah, 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 we could say, any council member should state if they have a conflict of interest or appearance of fairness doctrine concern, so on.
What happens after that? If I don't make that statement, even though it's written here, if I don't make that statement and then it becomes public knowledge, how do you deal with me then?
You're censured.
Okay.
It says it right there.
Yeah, that's.
Any council member who refuses to step down is subject to censure.
Also, that's an example of what's called malfeasance under the law in Washington concerning recall.
So he doesn't need to ask it. We have, it's
By law, you're
behooves
supposed
us to let it be
Yeah,
known.
RCW requires you to say if you have a conflict of interest, and there are specific penalties under the law if you don't.
Easy fix for this one is in that second line after the chair, you can just put may ask instead of will.
And I'll do a little research to see if there are types of hearings where statute or code has the will or requires it, and where that discretion lies in picking that up.
My question on 6.1 is, do we know if there's a reason why we still do a sign-in and that type of stuff? Because I certainly haven't followed that either. I know my
At a
predecessor
hearing?
used to and say that, you know, somebody gave her a list of, these are the people that have signed up and they went first. But, I mean, we kind of go until everybody's done anyway.
On a hearing.
No. Oh,
This is just for hearings, 6.1.
yeah, still, on a public hearing, I've never had anybody give me a sign-up document that says these folks have signed up to speak on this one.
I think Stacy actually had it where they would sign up and then she would call those who signed up to speak on a topic. And that's the only time that I can remember that we've actually done this per sign-up.
Because lack of having one, I won't refer to the list if nobody's given me one.
It says the chair may require, it doesn't require it, but it says that he may. You know, if there's a quasi judicial proceeding that you'll be chairing, where you know that there'll be quite a lot of folks, there is value to ordering the order of testimony, and I would always recommend that you
Order
get
against.
sign-ins and get the
Right.
honest.
So don't take that out, just may.
Right.
May.
I would just say at RTC, I mean, this is not public hearing, it's a regular meeting, but we do have a public comment at the beginning of the meeting. And we just ask that anyone who wants to make a public comment, they fill in, it's a very small card. It has to do with their name, address, and general, you know, topic. It doesn't have to be specific, but it really gives us a means of ordering. I mean, we can order them by the, you know, by
Yea
how
and
they
nay.
come back, and also for follow-up. It's actually, I was a little bit concerned at the beginning. I thought it would constrain public comment, but it doesn't. It actually organizes public comment. So I think even in public hearings,